Pinpointed and avoided certain detection as persons be guessing. Converse with erection, but what's worse is she stressing over the thought of losing what's utopian. She trying to rope a dope me in, she hopes you win. Past her pubes and her tube so deep I'm fallopian.
The name is Drew Sage. Actually, I can start with the name. Basically, I was influenced by Comedic Science that I was reading at the time. This was a while ago, and they just talk about the 13 stages of enlightenment, to make a long story short. So the 13th stage is not of this world. So my conclusion was there's no way that we can be true sages in this lifetime, because there's more work we need to do in the afterlife. So if I can't be a true sage, then I must be a Drew Sage, you know. And that whole thing, you know, a lot of people will see it and they'll be like, wow, how pretentious, he's calling himself a sage. But that's exactly what that means. But anyway, I grew up in New Jersey. My parents are Jamaican. They met in England and got married, had me. I'm still a British citizen. They moved to the United States when I was about 3, I believe. And that's where I pretty much was in New Jersey for most of the time, spent a little time in Baltimore, Maryland. I've been in Berkeley now my whole adult life since I was 17. So right before I got to Berkeley when I was 16, that's when I wrote my first rap. I've been writing like little short stories and poetry before that, since like the 3rd grade. But that was really when I had gotten a taste of hip-hop, and it was actually an answer to Roxanne Shante, which I think is hilarious to this day. But that's pretty much where I'd gotten started. I'd gotten here, graduated from Berkeley High my senior year, was tired of running after people trying to get music. You know, because I was coming with the lyrics, but I always had to find a DJ or somebody, and basically was a slave to their schedule. So, you know, I said, you know what, I'm going to try and work a little bit of money and buy those 2 Technique turntables and that Newmark mixer and go on from there. And after that came several drum machines and a 4-track recorder should have come first. I found that out later, but I eventually got a 4-track and started making my own stuff, and that was probably, showing my age, that was probably 1985, and I've been doing it pretty much non-stop ever since. You know, take a hiatus here and there to catch my breath, but pretty much it's a state of, I'm in a state of catharsis whenever I'm creating something. So, you know, it's not even a matter of, you know, when will this end? You know, it's, you know, it'll end when I move on to that higher stage of enlightenment. You know, it's funny because everyone has a story, and if you're willing to listen, you can be influenced by just about anyone. So that's why it's always really difficult for me to name particular figures. But as far as hip-hop is concerned, and these are names that a lot of people nowadays would not even, you know, it wouldn't resonate with them at all. But there was a brother, Tila Rock, T-L-A-R-O-C-K, and he came out with this song called It's Yours. I believe it was originally on Def Jam, when Def Jam was still in its embryonic stage. And that one really got me hooked on lyrics that used words that I was actually learning in English class. I mean, he was from the streets, so there was slang there too. But there were certain things that he was doing and he was saying that I hadn't really heard before. And he was a part of that whole Mantronix crew with Just Ice and you know, cats like that. So that whole crew, I think I was drawn to first. And then later on after that, you know, the list goes on and on. Big Daddy Kane, early LL, like the first album. And I have to emphasize that, the first album. And it, I mean, man, I can't even think right now. Rakim, I mean, a lot of different, you know, folks. But, you know, a lot of the smaller folks that nobody heard of, people that I meet online sometimes that are, you know, underground just like me. I mean, if you listen long enough, you know, you listen to a person's story and you kind of get into their style and their spirit, they'll be influential. Particular goal. Well, first and foremost, and a lot of people don't agree with this or they think it's some type of subterfuge or whatever, but honestly, you know, first and foremost, this is for me, you know. We mentioned earlier off camera, man, I've never sold a tape out of the trunk of my car or a CD or anything. I've made a whole lot of them, but I haven't sold anything. And I think it's more of a completion thing for me. For me to have something in its embryonic stage and to have it come to fruition, that's basically it for me. Once I give it to you, I give it to you because I care about you and I want you to see what I'm doing. And then I'm on to the next thing. Now, whether you experience it or not is up to you. If you just throw it in the trunk, or, you know, it gets buried somewhere or ends up getting mixed up in the in the stuff that you take into the Salvation Army, that's on you. That's not an insult to me, because that's, you know, the whole point of it was just sharing. Now, with that said, sure, I would like to be able to impact somebody. I would love for somebody to listen to my stuff and, you know, and get something from it. Even get something from it that I didn't intend. That's always huge. You know, when I hear like filmmakers talk about what they intended a particular film to be, and then, you know, I look at it and I'm like, wow, I got something totally different. I got to the next level. Or I hear somebody giving them feedback saying I got this and it was something that wasn't intended. Oh man, that's huge, you know. That's huge. And it always doesn't have to be positive, but that's huge. So in order for someone to experience it and get something from it, they'd have to listen to it. So yeah, I would like people to experience the music, but honestly, that's not the main goal. I think that main goal, I'm there already. There are a lot of subplots that I would like to see happen. I mean, sure, I would like to, you know, go to YouTube and pull up one of my videos and have like 2,000 hits or 10,000 hits or something like that. But that's not the course that it's been playing, and I'm not a salesman. And I'm not a marketing person. I'm not going to go out there and try, unless you're coming to me directly and you're asking me a question. Once it's out, it's out. I'm just not that type of person. And some people are like that. They're real good at selling themselves, and a lot of them are driven by the fact that they feel like they have to sell themselves. But for me, that main goal has already been accomplished. So I just move on to the next thing. So the next goal, it will be whatever the next project I'm working on. Once that's complete, you know, and you're always going to have friends and family that are at least going to acknowledge it, you know, so you can you can go on from there. But yeah, you know, I see people, I go on YouTube all the time and I look at different videos and I think to myself, what was it about that video that made it go viral like that? You know, and, you know, for the most part, I mean, I see that there are a lot of videos now that seem to be born out of a particular industry giant. So it's like, okay, they did their marketing and stuff. I'm not really speaking on that level, but just, you know, an everyday Joe like me that put something up that went viral. And you know, I look at that and I'm like, well, what did they do, you know, for it to be that engaging? And every time, you know, I end up like, you know, well, you know what? They probably didn't do anything. I mean, the planets just happened to be aligned for them. There was a whole lot of different things going on. And it was meant for it to happen like that. So, you know, it would be nice, you know. It would be nice. I mean, everybody wants to get paid for what they do natural and what they like. You know, you can give up the 9 to 5. But, there has to be a sense of realism there too. and right now, you know, that's not a realistic thing for me. And fortunately, my 9 to 5 isn't something that's necessarily breaking my back and my spirit. So I can come home and recharge and do what I need to do, you know. So, yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, I don't. The goal is the goals are the initial goals are always made for me, and then I have all of these subplots where it would be really nice. I would like to see happen, but you know, I can't wait on that. The setup is I've been setting up for 27 years now. I don't really play any instruments. You know, I can make noise with a little acoustic guitar every now and then, but I don't really play instruments. I was influenced by, you know, drum beats, you know, I mean that hardcore Run DMC stuff, and it was really interesting because I think that if the initial music that I listened to, hip hop, if it was more orchestrated and more I don't want to say musically driven because it's all music, but if it was more complex in quotes, it would have been real interesting to see if I would have really been dead set on making my own music, or if I would have kept chasing people. But that was one thing that occurred to me really early, is that if that was in my reach, it was like, oh yeah, you know, I can pound out some drums on a, you know, some drum beats on a drum machine, you know. Oh yeah, I can make a few simple chords on, you know, on a keyboard. So hence the samplers, you know, the EPS 16 Plus. I have 2 of them. I don't remember initially what made me buy the first one. It may have had something to do with Public Enemy. I may have read somewhere that they were, you know, they were doing what they were doing with an EPS. But before that, even in the mid 80s, when I first started getting equipment, that's why I got the 2 turntables and the mixer, because, you know, it was a matter of getting some instrumentals or getting some breaks and backtracking. You know, recording that and then taking that and then recording my voice over it. So hence the 2 turntables, the mixer, and then I remember doing crude recordings with a double cassette where, you know, you record one on whatever you were doing on the right channel, and then something else on the vocals on the left channel or something like that, and then it went from there. So it just kind of like evolved into just that. Then it was the cassette recorder, the 4-track. Then I got enough money to, okay, well, let's do the sampling thing. You know, that's really cool, and that's the same idea of backtracking with the turntables, just electronically. So I really got into the sampling thing. As you can see, there's actually 3 of them. And then probably in 2003 maybe is where this digital 16-track came into play. And I went on and I got the Fostex. I didn't want to get the Roland because that would have been too much money, because I wasn't sure how I was really going to freak it. So the Roland was like probably about 2 or 3 G's at the time. The Fostex, and I had heard a lot of bad stuff about Fostex, but the Fostex was only like 700. So I took a chance. You know, needless to say, I haven't had a problem with Fostex. But it changed me, because then I was able to burn CDs instead of cassettes. So I still, and from time to time I still use it, because although it's digital, since it has the analog in and outs, it's a different kind of digital than running straight from the M-Box into the computer, which is the next step. 2005, I got into the M-Box with the laptop and the GarageBand and that whole thing. So there was nothing cutting edge. I just used it until I stumbled onto something else. You know, some people I know, the next good thing that comes out, they're freaking it, man, and they're putting it in their mix some kind of way or whatever. But I was never really that type of person. You know, I had to get torn away from GarageBand. You know, I had to get torn to GarageBand. I didn't want to give up this. I didn't want to give up the 4-track cassette at first, you know. I mean, but it was one of those things where, you know, okay, let me go on and try it. And it was such a unique way, and changed the style of recording in such a unique way, that I ended up basically basing, you know, whole projects off of that new change. Like I have a CD called Nympho Brainiac. Nympho Brainiac was the Fostex. You know, I don't think I had even started writing that until, you know, the Fostex, and then it just kind of opened up a whole new realm. A lot of the subject matter stayed the same, but just a new way of recording and everything else. So what you see here is the embodiment of trial and error and boredom and inquisitiveness, and it just goes on and on, you know. I mean, you know, the MIDI controllers, everything just kept going up a step. And you know, I've been with Logic for a while, although, like I said, I still tip back to, you know, this digital 16 track, but Logic has been really good to me, you know, after I let GarageBand go. And it was the bridge from GarageBand to Logic was a beautiful thing, because, you know, I could just open up my projects from GarageBand in Logic. So that kind of gave me my training wheels, and, you know, and I just went on from there. So yeah, you know, I mean, around here somewhere is a little camera. This is part of my green screen. I mean, it's all related, and it's all something that, you know, okay, what can I do with the next level to enhance this basic thing that I've been doing since 84, 85. So yeah, that's the set. I'm sure I'm leaving other stuff out. There's all kinds of little gadgets around here that I haven't used in a while. I mean, guitar foot pedals that were supposed to be for effects that I was plugging mics in just so I could get some echo or something like that. I mean, just different things. This came off of eBay. You know, it's the next generation of the EPS, you know, that ASR 10. I had never seen it in drum machine form before. This was a direct bite, I believe, off of that MPC 3000. You know, so, you know, I mean, you know, while other people were doing things, you know, and making great strides around me, I was making maybe, you know, taking smaller steps and just doing it when it was ready. But it's all evolution. Sure. Well, the easiest, if you Google Drew Sage, D-R-E-W-S-A-G-E, my Facebook page pops right up, and my Reverb Nation page. That's where I have like 30 songs on there now, some of which are downloadable, all of which can be by request. I just haven't gotten around to flipping that electronic switch. But that would be Reverb Nation, one word, reverbnation.com/Drew Sage, one word, D-R-E-W-S-A-G-E. There's still a MySpace, myspace.com/Drew Sage Beats, I believe. There's a Twitter. One of my CDs is called Berkeley Skinny. So Berkeley Skinny, one word, at Berkeley Skinny rather, for Twitter, at Berkeley Skinny. I mean, I'm out there, you know. I'm sure there's something else I'm forgetting, but you know,
YouTube.
Oh, YouTube, man. If you put a search on Drew Sage, 20 or so videos will come up. Just, you know, just on YouTube. Music stuff. I wear the Vibrams 5 fingers, so I got commercials up there for Vibram that they don't appreciate, I must add. So they're fun to check out. Yeah, but music, man, arts and crafts. I mean, I've done all kind of crazy stuff. So yeah, again, you can put a Google on Drew Sage to get the Reverb Nation and to get my Facebook. You can put a search on Drew Sage, either one word or two, in YouTube. My stuff pops up on there, and then myspace.com/Drew Sage Beats, Reverb Nation. If you want to go directly to it, reverbnation.com/Drew Sage.
With you I freely toy, cause I'm really coy. With a creepy ploy, you're deeply annoyed, cause I'm a freaky zoid. I won't roll this spliff, got a soul of mischief. My immaculate